In the name of making housing more affordable, both our state of California and federal governments are pursuing policies that will decrease housing supply, make it harder for people to buy houses. Why is that? Well, to understand that, when you look at the current market and where the focus is and what the problem they think they're trying to solve, and then we'll talk about why the policies aren't going to work. So to understand the market today, there's always two factors: supply and demand in any economy. The demand side of buyers is primarily dictated by interest rates. Last week, we had a very nice drop in rates, down from 7.9% to, from 7.39% to 7.08%. Over a 0.25% decrease in interest rates. Now, rates have been between 6 and 7 most of the year, jumped above 7% in August, and have stayed there most of the month and are still above 7%. But if you look at the period from the beginning of the year, you can see 2023. You can see that we're between 6 and 7, jumping above 7 all August, and now getting back to that number. So rates have been in the range of 7%. And at these numbers, there are a lot of buyers looking to buy houses. Demand's very strong. Now, on the supply side, that would be the inventory, the number of homes are available for sale. That's been unusually low because of a number of institutional factors. We can look at the market now, all-time lowest inventory by many indicators, lower than pandemic levels last 2 years, lower than pre-pandemic or any year before that. With less houses available, there can't be a housing crash. The only way you have a housing crash is if too many sellers want to sell their house. That's not happening, not enough houses to do that. And there are a lot of factors that keep sellers from selling their homes. We'll get into what those are. And those are effectively keeping up prices, making it harder for people to buy. So what's the market like specifically in our market in Los Angeles, where I live? Well, there's a great program, Altos Research, takes all the factors and gives a numeric factor of 43 to describe the current market conditions. They analyze the key factors. The key number I look at is the price per square foot. What do you get for what's it cost to buy a square foot of housing? Now, what's also true is that there's more housing demand at the lower end than there is at the higher end, and that's going to cause average per square foot to go down a bit, but it's been steady at $825 per square foot. Overall, the market in Los Angeles is a solid, decent seller's market. Not historic level, but solid level, decent seller's market. Now, the number of factors are changing the market, causing things to change as far as the inventory. One is the pandemic caused more people to work remotely. Now, obviously, if you work in LA, you want to own a house in LA or a suburb or an exurb. When you can work remotely, you can live anywhere. Whether you work for an LA company and live remotely out of the state, or if you want to live in Los Angeles but work for a company somewhere else in the country. And what's clear is more and more people, more workers are looking to work remotely. Now, companies are pushing to get employees into the office. Maybe not 5 days a week, but 4 or 3. Particularly companies where there's collaboration, like technology companies and creative companies. I know companies where employees need to go to the office 2 or 3 days a week. We're not going to go back to 5 days a week. I don't think in my lifetime. But as more people can work remotely, that makes the opportunity for housing different. So if there aren't houses being built, say, in Los Angeles, then those remote workers can live in, say, Orange County, Riverside County, San Bernardino County, and commute in, or remote work 3 or 4 days a week and only have to commute in 1 day a week. My wife, unfortunately, was in the hospital recently. We met nurses that worked 3 or 4 days on, 3 or 4 days off, and they found a local place to crash 2 or 3 nights. And they commute in from, hours, 4 hours away. But they had to commute in once or twice a week, and that was a lifestyle that they found that worked for them. So as more people look to work remotely, we're going to see the changes in the housing market. That's going to make it more affordable for people who want to make those changes. Redfin, kind of the Debbie Downer, I think, lately of real estate news, kind of puts a story out today and puts a bad spin on it. Actually put this out earlier this week. Real estate investors pull back, buying 45% fewer homes than a year ago. Now, overall, sales are down about 25-30% because of the economy, higher interest rates and such. They're documenting that investors are more pulling back. Well, think about that for a second. If less investors are buying by percentage, less of the homes are being bought by investors, who's buying the other homes? Well, owner-occupants, people pursuing the American dream. So here, Redfin, among everybody else, has been talking about the housing affordability crisis, and that would be measured as improving the housing affordability, at least, not the crisis. The improvement is if more people could buy houses to live in. And here they're documenting it, but rather than the flip side, saying more people can buy a home to live in, they do the opposite. The real estate investors are pulling back, and to me, that's just being Debbie Downer, and it's not I don't know why. I don't know why they want to create a negative sense. Worse than them, Yahoo Finance. Talk about Debbie Downers. Look at this triple whammy. The housing market's stuck, they say. It's stuck. My day's not stuck, okay? Americans can't afford homes. Well, 4 million are going to buy a house this year. Maybe not 5 million, but 4 million will. Investors aren't buying property. I have investors making offers on my property every day. And economists, well, I don't know what that really means. Economists mostly are just journalists who write about economy, or economists or people, professors who never did anything, see little relief ahead. There might not be relief ahead, but here's what I'm going to tell you. The housing market's not stuck. It changes every day. Many Americans can afford homes. Many more can't. Many more can't, but many can't afford homes. Many investors are buying property. Many aren't. Many are. This is just Debbie Downer in the news to get you to click on them so they can sell you stuff. Just to me, kind of a crazy headline by Yahoo Finance showing why Yahoo went from being so powerful to being so weak. Dig a little deeper. When you go to Yahoo Finance, and if you do a search on real estate, I think I pulled it off. Yeah, I did, unfortunately. All the articles on their search under real estate are 7 months or older, right? The most recent article on mortgage rates, I saw this article, I was kind of shocked. I scrolled down, this is from January. This is the second highest in the real estate section called, what do they call this? They call it real estate, the new reality. The new reality. And Yahoo Finance is 7 months old. And so they have an article about interest rates on, there's the second highest article on their real estate section, and it has rates at 6.15%. I always wonder why sometimes my clients call me and say, well, I saw online, rates at this, and they believe it. It's because they're getting disinformation from bad news sources, Yahoo Finance being one of them. Now, I headlined the article, this article, with the government going in the opposite direction. I don't want to get into politics here. We all have our own politics. I just want to evaluate, as it affects real estate, what's happening so we can see the market and see the trends properly and not get fooled by the headlines. And so what I can tell you is, without a doubt, the current administration federally and the state of California are pursuing policies that will make it harder for people to buy their first home. Less by percentage will afford a home. Now, you might say it's a good thing. You might say, well, it's good if everybody rents. In fact, I think the World Economic Forum makes that case, that everybody should be renters and own nothing. I'm not going to argue that here. What I'm going to say is, let's just be honest and talk about it. And here's a case where the Biden administration rolls out the Renters' Bill of Rights. There's no Homeowner Bill of Rights. There's no first-time homebuyer Bill of Rights. Lawmakers are pushing for federal rent control laws. Now, if you know anything about rent control laws, they're almost universal in cities with horrible housing affordability issues, like Los Angeles, like Santa Monica. And it might be good for politicians, and it might be good if you think politically it's good to have more people rent and stay in rental housing, okay. But clearly, it's not good to create more home affordability because you have homes being held by tenants, not by homeowners. You're making it also harder for investors to buy the properties and want to keep them, but they're stuck with people that can't sell the property. Very hard to sell property when it's currently in rent control. Now, I'm going to make a little politics statement here and say, using my real estate experience, in the last 3 or 4 years, since my focus on real estate in probate here in Los Angeles, I've dealt with, directly in properties, I've dealt with 20 or so properties that had tenants in them, and probably looked at another couple hundred for customers and investors. 95% of tenants, in my mind, who are late on their rent have just been deadbeats abusing the market. I'm sure there are people who have hardships. Maybe there are you, and I feel sorry for you. And that's the case, put in the comments section. And if it's not, if it's too personal, okay, I get it. Send me an email. But I'm going to tell you, in my experience as a professional realtor, 95% of the time when we're trying to sell a property and the tenants in there, they're not complying, they're not paying on time, it's almost always a mess. I have vendors who specifically help the owners of these properties get these problem tenants out. It's a business model I have of bringing expertise to that area because it's very difficult. But the Bill of Rights lawmakers push for rent control laws, I assure you, are not going to do anything to add one more house to the housing stock, and are not going to help home buyers buy more homes. It's going to lock up properties longer, like in Santa Monica, and drive the prices up further, making it harder for people to buy. Not to be outdone, here in the state of California, I got my weekly newsletter from our Attorney General, Rob Bunta. Now, I should show the newsletter on here. I thought this was kind of like a newsletter a realtor might put on there. There he is, Rob Bunta with his picture. Tell me it doesn't look like a real estate agent's newsletter. And then the first article, protecting LGBTQ students. Okay, fine. A picture of him. I'm not saying it's funny that he's in a parade, but why not show activists? Why not show people that you're trying to help support? Why you? And then he has another one down here, working to tackle illegal cannabis. There's a picture of him. So to me, this guy's newsletter looks like something a real estate agent would have. Selling himself does not look to me like a state official telling us how he's helping us. But General Bunta and Newsom administration announced a settlement with the city of San Bernardino for violating the city's housing element law. What is that? Well, cities, are elected by its constituents, its residents, and in general, people aren't, barking for more high-density, multifamily apartment living. People want to pursue the American dream. And so here's a city of San Bernardino that's resisting the city's push. And so what does the state do? The state sues them and tells them, no, you have to build more high-density housing. You have to have more low-income housing the way we define it, meaning they're not letting the city define how they're going to help their needy residents. The state's going to tell them how to do that. Well, nobody wants to be told what to do by a state agency. And so at the end of the day, what we have is Attorney General Bunta, in between his time spent with cannabis and with parades and promoting himself, is just going to end up putting city direction and money into rental housing and housing for low-income people, which is great, but very expensive. Doesn't really help low-income people in sufficient numbers we've seen here in LA. It's just a disaster, these programs. They sound great. They're great sound bites. They look good on a newsletter, but they don't really help people get more housing. So at the end of the day, what should you do? Well, don't get caught up in the politics. Just know that if you can get into a house now, in California in particular and nationwide, there's a lot of pressure to build less homes. That there's opportunities out there. The market is still pretty solid. The prices are not going down. They're going up more like historical levels. And mortgage rates even dropped dramatically last week. So it's a good time for you to buy. Let's get together, talk about it, how I can help you. And it's a good time for you to sell. Let's get the right strategy for you to be effective. Now, if you like the video, please like it, subscribe it, put comments down, tell me what you didn't like, call me out on it. I'm here to have a dialogue with you. I talk to hundreds of people as a result of this email every week. As always, make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.